Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 25th session. Oh, I did it right this time, Shane. 25th session of
Then you win.
of the Weave Tales of Voria. We are now celebrating the new Tier 4 restrictions and a very lockdown Christmas. And as such, this session will be all about you stuck in a room having a breakfast club type conversation, not able to go outside. We need to keep in theme with what's going on in the world.
To be honest with you, that was like half of the sessions we had in the Water Deep Ice.
Yes, like when you were in the hut and you didn't want to leave it. One more thing.
Can't say hey.
Yeah, can't say hi. Okay.
Lady.
Let me just open up my notes. Everyone good? Everyone good? Yes, everyone's great. Okay. So, do you want to say something, Jord?
No, that was the best. Just keep it like that from now on.
Okay,
I think.
great.
Like efficient.
So the Wandering Academy, after meeting with the local bounty hunter of sorts that introduced himself as Nelson Red, found themselves attempting to capture a dangerous creature called Alfredo. Things didn't go too well, and Alfredo fled with Coda in his belly to his master's lair, Auntie Verna's hut, with the party giving chase as Red assured them that Coda would be fine. Inside the hut, Elizabeth, that had arrived there first, had a conversation with a bullywug named Vashk, the son of Queen Zinka, an heir to the throne of the swamps. She witnessed as this bullywug healed Coda, waking him up and explaining what was the deal with him being there in the hut and whatnot. At that, the rest of the party arrived and gathered together in the hut, and eventually Auntie Verna came back. And you all shared a meal together, with Verna providing you with your reward, along with some trade and advice and potential, let's say, interest in helping each other in the future. From her and from Vashk, you all learned that there is a nearby bullywug tribe. By the way, I hadn't said the name, but the name of the village is called Bullyquag. And they are in conflict with the Locathar, which are the fish people that live in the river Baben Run. After leaving the hut and resting for the night, you decided to pay the Bullywug a visit, since they were on the way up to the river and the Locathar anyway, and so you could learn more about this whole situation. At the village, you were received by Queen Zinka, as all the Bullywug of the village gathered around you. Coda offered his rapier as a gift, and this appeared to have been very well received by the Queen, as you presented your respects in a very pompous fashion. And then the party attempted to convince them that the jackals were now riding giant toads, with Elizabeth kind of like improv ad-libbing some kind of tall tale based on a scone's suggestion, and they were coming to claim their swamp. This spear was also helping by making a demonstration of how they could use oil to burn everything. And as this distraction happened, it worked really well to allow Red to manage to sneak away from the group, meeting a small group of Locathar that were apparently the guests of Queen Zinka, and were led by a druid called Undertow. And they had some plans of their own. After it became obvious that the Queen was putting on a show of pomposity and strength in the presence of foreigners, you were all invited to her palace to discuss things further. And as you were all gathered by the royal guard of Queen Zinka, you were led into a hut, the biggest hut in the pond, and inside the hut opens up and it doesn't have a back. The back is kind of like butted against what appears to be some kind of rocky outcrop. And there is a cavern. So the hut essentially is almost at the mouth of that cave. And inside that cave, you can definitely smell the dampness and some stale water of the swamp as well. And it is all decorated with like leather, some pieces of metal, and it's all quite muddy and whatnot. And as you're all led inside, one of the royal escorts of the queen grabs Koda's rapier and puts it in the wall there to display. And it is now the shiniest thing in the wall because the rest is just full of mud and covered with overgrown vegetation and whatnot. And that's where we left off, as you all led inside the palace of Queen Zinka. Were you talking or doing anything, or shall I continue describing the situation? Okay.
Yeah, proceed.
I think you were just going describing it. She was about to speak. I thought.
So as you're all led inside, where is my here? As you're all led inside, you see this again. This like cave. It's quite damp and a bit cold, and it has all these decorations that are obvious. Things that they scavenged from their enemies, people they killed, like pieces of leather armor and weapons, and a lot of it is kind of like rusty and not, because of the dampness, not very well taken care of. But they display it with like pride, and the giant toe kind of like goes to one side as the queen jumps. In fact, I have a picture of the queen that I can show you. For some reason, my Windows is not open things in photo viewer anymore. Images is using in oh fuck it, whatevs. So there we go. As the queen kind of like enters and sits on a bit of an overgrown throne of sorts that is just the bottom of a big tree trunk that has been hollowed out and then on one side carved so she can sit there, and there are toadstools and mushrooms of different sizes all growing around her, giving it a bit of color. She kind of like sits there. And she has this spear, not that mace that in the picture, but I really like the picture. But she has this spear that is adorned with like feathers and pieces of what appears to be like vines of different colors, all hanging from where the shaft of the spear meet the tip. And she sits there. And then immediately you see one of the royal guards kind of like stands in front of her. Zinka Fartong, the first of her name, Queen of the Swamp, Grand Matriarch of the Marchlands, and Protector of the Holy Bog, welcomes. Who are you again?
The academy.
Welcomes the academy to her glorious palace. Kneel before her.
Sure.
Do you all kneel?
Kneel, and then I'll stand back up again.
Like a flourishing kneel.
I'll just squat.
A slab squat. Okay. The royal guard kind of like grumbles a bit, but then stands aside, and the queen kind of like waves him away. Enough of these formalities. You have come telling brave stories of jackals and giant toads and asking for my help and the help of our people. Blah, blah. Well, I believe there is room for an agreement here that can benefit both the mighty Bullywog and your academy. Well, we can definitely offer help with the jackals, and as if you say, and we shall confirm this with our scouts, they are now training toads to invade us. Then they will feel all the might of the swamp. But we shall not risk no warrior, hunter, or croakers until we know that victory is but guaranteed. As such, we must first look to the east, to the river, and our ancient enemies, the Locathar.
And what is it you want to do with these Locathar?
Well, for that, we have thought of a cunning plan. We have allied ourselves with one of their number, an important figure, a master druid among them. We think that if this druid was made their chief instead of their current one, then the Locathar and the Bullywog could strike a peace, and then redirect our combined might towards the dwarves and the humans and the gnomes that seek to drive us away from the swamp.
So what's your cunning plan to rid them of their current queen?
Well, for that, I shall introduce you to our ally. His name is Undertow. Bring him to me. And one of the royal guards kind of like leaves the cave. Please.
I'll just sort of to the group. It's quite not quite enough that she probably couldn't hear, but just directed at the group. That's the one that was in the vat that I was talking about. Why am I West Country? It's doing the wrong accent. That's the one that was in the vat that said that they could make us breathe underwater for a while if we need it, but I don't know. Seems like a high price to get involved in.
That's why I'm interested. Are they looking for just an assassination or genocide? Not eager to do either, since we only came here for a guide.
Aye.
Do you care for food as you are now my guests? And you see one bullywug from the side immediately goes, perks up, grabs what appears to be some kind of a big plate made of interwoven leaves, and brings it to you. And you see small animals there, mostly snails, and there's some berries and some veggies that you're not too familiar with, and some mushrooms, mostly mushrooms, but with snails still crawling around, and starts offering to you all.
This is kind of gross. What's the nicest thing on here?
You got some snails on there. They look.
No, I don't want snails.
Yeah, take one of the snails and just suck it out of the shell.
You go. As you suck it out of the shell, you crunch it. It is spongy, wet, and then it's not bad. It mostly tastes like mud because it was a bit caked in mud.
But these are not cooked.
No, they are alive and raw.
That's a pretty powerful suck to suck a snail right out, a live snail out of its shell. Impressive.
That's not the first snail I've sucked out of a shell. On the road, you gotta eat lots of things. Bugs are a fine delicacy, actually. if you can find them when they're big and juicy. Here, I'll take one and just offer it you. Give it a try. They're a little bit bland, but, you know, not the worst.
I'm just gonna eat the berries.
They also taste muddy.
You know what? I'm not that hungry.
I'm just gonna scoop a couple like mushrooms and some more snails into my arms and just start like eating them slowly as everyone's.
I'm gonna sneak a ration out. Just chew on a ration.
Okay. You grab a ration and from your bag and start chewing. They leave the plate in front of you. You are standing here in the middle of this cave, and it is covered by about 2 inches of water. So your feet are never quite in a dry spot in this whole area. And after a few minutes, the royal guard that had left arrives with the Lokatha that you had met already. You see this. 1 second. Where are you? You see this. Damn. My notes are growing so long that it's hard to find stuff. There we go. You see this Lokatha, this really big head of a fish with like smaller arms but quite muscular legs, and has fins that go all on the sides, and then a big fin that goes all along the back, and is wearing now is not naked as you have seen him before, Nielsen, and is wearing some kind of like leather armor with that is all kind of like shaped and perfectly follow the shape of the body and the fins, leaving the fins out so they can move freely. And he carries a staff that has a beautiful coral decoration at the top. It's almost like a coral growth of different types of coral, like you will find in tropical waters on the sea, and it's so colorful that it's obviously alive. It's not fossilized coral, and it's just there at the kind of like crowning the top of the staff, and kind of like takes a few steps forth. And I decided to change the voice of the Lokatha because it was so stupid. I would hate to do it for so long. This is Undertow, our ally. I have other matters to attend to here. You may speak. I shall listen. And they bring a big plate of food to her, and she starts eating while just looking at you. Undertow kind of like steps forward. It's about, as I say, it's about like the size of maybe a bit smaller than a dwarf, but not by much. Maybe like 5 foot, 4'9" or something like that. And kind of like nods at you, Red, as he sees you. Well, I see you've met now Queen Zinka in her palace. We are very much thankful for hosting us as refugees from our own shoal, from our own clan of Lokatha down the river, that unfortunately have become, well, a bit too difficult to deal with for the Bullywug. I believe we have some common ground we can work on based on what you said before, Mr. Red. And maybe if you help us, you could help bring peace to the quarrel of our peoples. So, why don't you first expand on exactly what do you need from the Bullywug or from us, and how can we help?
I think all that I said last when we spoke was just that we were looking for a way to traverse a large underwater passage without struggling to breathe, and you said you could provide that, but
Indeed, what's your end goal?
Well, for that I would defer to anyone here, probably Elizabeth or Coda, be able to tell you better than I.
How aware are you of the politics in Zadar?
Well, somewhat aware, of course. Barnacle, our current chief, she has gotten herself involved in some of the politics of Zadar, something that hasn't quite panned out well for us. For now, the Queen of the Dwarves, the Duchess, I believe they call her, is demanding that we help her as spies in the lake against Allenheim. That puts our very small population at danger.
Interesting. So that was one of my bargaining points, was to try and offer an alliance between yourselves and the Duchess, but if you're already in talks and she's asking for such things, I don't think that's the best course of action for anyone.
What's she offering in return for your service to spy on the Five Nations?
That's the thing. She only offers, well, because she says we are in the lands of Zadar. She just offers that we be left alone, which we have been left alone. Just basically status quo. And maybe trade. I don't believe those are good terms for us. We already have that. Barnacle, our chief, she's thinking small. We Lokatha, we need to impose our will and our right to live here, as we have for a long time, without submitting to the whims of a land-based power.
I would count myself as convinced, but I would first like to know what your plan is.
Well, first of all, before I explain, I assume that what you said you wanted to go underwater, and from what I heard, you are going up against the jackals, from what I heard as you spoke with glorious Queen Zinga. So you intend to get involved in this brewing civil war of those land people, correct?
Correct.
And what would be your end goal then? To help the Duchess against the jackals? To remove the jackals?
Not necessarily to remove the jackals, to reinstate power, to remove the bad eggs from amongst the jackals, make them a force for good.
And you say, how much would you say is your influence with this Duchess if you said that you were about to offer an alliance?
Well, not so much as that, but I hoped to introduce you and start things off, but it seems that that's not a good idea at all.
If it changes, if it tips the scales in our favor, so we would have more of a negotiating hand, rather than simply being left alone. If the whole Baban Run River was essentially granted to the Lokatha and the Queen of the Bullywug, then yes, I would say that we would be able to be involved in a much more direct way. Do you think you can help us get that leverage with the Duchess and the land peoples?
With your help with what we're trying to do, it would certainly paint you in a good light. But it is quite a tall order you're making.
Should that be the case as well, that you were offered some kind of immunity from this Duchess's reach, as it were, would that mean that the life of your current leader would be spared? There would be no need for this coup that you have planned would she be willing to make peace with Zinka if the land was left alone from outside influence?
Unfortunately, Queen Zinka domain, the great marshlands, is getting smaller and smaller as the land peoples push, till and farm the land, dries it up. The swamps get smaller and push to the river. And this is what brought the Bullywag in conflict with our people in the first place, because we were there. We can only impose ourselves with environmental control, creating more swamp to the north on the northern part of the river and controlling the southern part of the river. This is what we intend to do with this alliance. For that, unfortunately, we need Barnacle must go because she's not ambitious enough. She just wants to stay in a little cavern where we are.
And that's the rite of passage with your people, is it? There's not like a process where you can depose her without violence. It's just you gotta off them and someone take the place.
Oh, no. We are not of violence as such. We are very much civilized people. In fact, we are already exacting our plan. The grotto is dying. Only myself, and he kind of like at that, your passive insights are enough to realize when he says only myself, he grips the staff and kind of like brings him a bit, the staff with the living coral, and brings it a bit closer to him. Only myself can control the delicate balance of salt water that has been magically pushed into our underwater grotto. Without my influence, now that I've left, the natural order of the area is taking over. The fresh water is pushing into the caverns, and the grotto salt water is diluting. Soon enough, all the species of coral that we were brought with us will die without the salt water to sustain them, and the grotto with them. And our people will be forced to leave. This is how I'm putting pressure on Barnacle to step down. Unfortunately.
And you would seek to put yourself in power?
Yes, I have.
By ransoming the lives of everybody in the grotto?
With myself in power, I shall command the waters again, restoring the balance.
Is there anyone else that would take power? Maybe someone who doesn't wield the only life-saving ability of the entire clan that you have?
The wisdom of our clan rests within my shoulders as a master druid. The time of the hunters is gone. Barnacle clings to a tradition and a time where hunters back in the sea were the most important stratus of our society. Here, though, peacemaking, farming, is the most important. Control of the waters and the environment. We don't hunt anymore. And yet she keeps to the old traditions. Artificially, of course, because her traditions are not needed to survive. So, now, as she feels the pressure and the fresh water invades our grotto, killing it slowly, she instead becomes desperate, and I believe she's about to launch an attack to try and capture me, instead of submitting. This is what we need from you. Help us defeat her, or make her see reason. Step away, go to the seas, take her hunters with her, and help me become the peacemaker our region needs.
Would you excuse me a minute? I need to take a leak outside the cave.
At that, one of the royal guards kind of like squats a bit, and you see that in the very dark, swampy waters, there is a bit of differently colored liquid that expands, and it starts mixing with the water where you're standing, and kind of like chuckles. You can do it here. The swamp takes all.
I have bashful bladder. I'd rather just find a quiet corner if that's alright with you.
Drylanders, go.
Plus, it's quite cold here. So. I'm just gonna walk out the cave, and as I do, just like look for a secluded bit, and I'm just gonna cast detect magic.
Sure. Make a stealth check. See how well you kind of like get out of sight for the spell.
15.
Okay, yeah, that's enough. You go there. Is it like instant? So yeah.
Yeah. I'm not gonna take 10 minutes. I think I'm doing something
Okay.
else. Having a poop in
Okay,
the
as
swamp.
you go out, well,
So-
you guys are still inside. Anything you want to say or do?
I wanted to ask one thing. Obviously, I presume it's hard to read a Locathar expressions.
You will have
and-
disadvantage on insight.
Yeah. I just wanted to know when she was talking about like putting pressure on if there was any semblance of if she showed any kind of pity or empathy or was like pure ruthlessness when she was saying those things. Like in her eyes there was like a slight arching of the eyes as if like
Yeah, no, got you.
she
Yeah,
regrets
gotcha.
it or if it's like I'm just doing
Make a
it.
disadvantage insight check.
Ooh. Well, I got a natural 20 and a 10. So
12. I'm gonna say, obviously, okay, it is obvious that he wants to save the Grotto. He doesn't want the Grotto to die, but he is quite single-minded in his approach. You know, there is a bit of determination to follow through with this plan of essentially putting pressure on Barnacle to step down by cutting the life out of the grotto, by letting it be flooded by fresh water.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay.
I'll
Yep.
go back in at like a convenient point.
Yep.
Whenever enough time has passed.
So as you come back with your detect magic spell on, you definitely detect a very, very strong aura of... One second.
I come back in. I got like goggles down. I don't know if I ever described myself as goggles on my head, but I've got them
Of
down
a
over my
mix
eyes.
of conjuration and transmutation coming from the staff, the coral staff, and also
I want to look at her spear as well.
from the spear.
Oh well, I guess you'll.
From
Yeah,
the
you'll-
spear, you see an aura of conjuration, divination, and enchantment. From the spear of the Bullywug Queen.
Conjuration, divination, and
Yeah.
enchantment. You said, yeah.
And the staff is conjuration and transmutation.
Cool. Thank you.
So,
He comes
Yeah.
back in. Just is there a lot of splashback then?
The goggles. Aye. Oh, I had that bog brew last night builds up in you, and then it bursts out with a fury.
I regret asking. I don't know what I expected.
Did I miss anything important here? Is that all the details?
You weren't gone long.
No. Just feels like this might be something we want to discuss in private.
Yes, no, I agree.
one last thing before then, and you shall discuss. what you said about the jackals worries me. As she kind of like said this, you notice that Undertow, the Locathar druid, kind of like looks at her and then at you and kind of like shakes his head. There is a bit of a recognition there that I don't know about this jackal on giant toad business, but whatever. I'm gonna shut up. If you were to help Undertow become this peacemaker with his people, then we might find ourselves in a position of strength, without the risk of the Locathar coming to attack us from the east. Then we could turn our eyes to the west, and I would be able to help you and help ourselves get rid of these jackals, expand our swamp. I would give you an army of croakers and hunters and trackers. But I cannot reach them with the menace and the threat of the Locathar on my eastern door.
Right. Well, I'm sure your help would be instrumental. And I'll turn and look at the druid. What's his name?
Undertow.
And just give him a look of, don't you spoil this for us.
Of course, Your Majesty. And the Locathar would ride as well, together with the Bullywug. And then, together, our hand with the Duchess would be strengthened. I believe this would work out marvelously for everyone involved. A stable swamp and a stable river for a stable, strong Locathar Bullywug population sat at the table with the same authority as the Drylanders. And the queen kind of like bangs the spear on the like bark throne.
Right.
Just gonna go and take another one of them snails off the plate.
Undertow gets closer to you.
Close to me?
You all.
Oh.
Of course. Is it... Do you need some time to think about this? We don't expect you to make a decision without thinking first. And there are different ways in which we can do this. So go. Go and think.
Yeah. Is there a private swamp?
Give them Loftus' hut. And one of the royal guards comes to you. Boom, boom. The one that had Pete kind of like shakes himself as he stands, dripping water from his buttocks, and comes towards you. Follow me. And you're led out of the cavern to a small reed hat that is kind of like lifted a bit from the swamp, and it is interconnected by bridges to other hats at different heights. You like that one? It is dry. A human used to live here, Loftus. Died of old age. We like him. And there is a bit of like wooden steps that lead to a hut that appears to be quite empty, but it has some amenities. There is a table, there is a hay bed, and what appears to be some kind of wardrobe, and it's all empty.
Yeah, this'll do. At least we're not in the swamp anymore.
Right. Are we secure?
Scally, watch the door. Let us know if anything comes in or listens outside.
Okay. Scotty positions himself outside the door. The rest of the bullywug are kind of like going about the business now, and the royal guard is at the bottom of the steps leading to this hut, maybe like 15 feet from the door. And he's just standing guard there, but not looking towards the hut, but looking towards the rest of the swamp. So giving you his back.
I imagine we're on the same page.
That undertow can't be trusted.
I feel he'll follow through and he'll do what he's saying, but I don't agree with what he's saying. I feel that he
No.
would threaten the lives of all those people.
Yeah, it's more his long-term plans that alarm me, to say the least. Someone that's willing to ransom power like that, to take power themselves, without any kind of arbiter, well, could be some kind of dictator in the making. People don't like what he starts saying, threatens to kill them all with his magic that only he seems to possess.
But then what's the alternative?
Install a second and a more impartial one that respects the ways of these hunters and these more druidic Lokafar that might act as an intermediary.
But we need the druid. And if the druid isn't compliant, we can't send him to slavery. I imagine that wouldn't work anyway.
No, but we could steal his staff and bribe him with that, seeing as he's not one to go around tactics not similar himself. So,
Take his staff. To what end? I mean, you could give it back to him and then he has it back. Or he can just say,
under
well,
the condition that he doesn't put himself in power. He seems to be nothing without it. My goggles just said that I'll lift him up. It's definitely a strong source of his power.
at least one source.
Aye, druids and their more rudimentary conduit for magic around them, certainly, but I believe that that's what's controlling his coral.
I think there would be a hitch in our fate to something rather dangerous that we have no knowledge of consequences of. If we take his staff, what stops the Bullywugs from taking their side, his side, and turning against us? If we
Take
threaten
their
him-
staff as well.
Yeah, I mean, you seem like a brave man, if a bit foolhardy, I may say. It's 6 of us, 5 of us against a whole village.
You would be quiet about it. No, I understand this isn't the environment in which we would be best to do something like this. I don't know. I just feel if we instate him into power, we don't know that he's not going to go to war with the Bullywugs right afterwards.
He wouldn't go to war with the Bullywugs, but he may do something worse, perhaps. Start a war with the humans, the people that are. I don't know, but yes, you're right. He's not to be trusted.
Is that a concern? The two of them combined might be a power enough to disrupt this region that will have to be put down eventually.
It'd be very least damaging, and with the other war coming from the east, I imagine that'd be enough to topple.
Well, he said we're more than welcome to try reason with, the other queen. So why don't we check some facts?
Well, he said the reason in order to get rid of her, right?
I know, but if we speak to her and things just might make a bit more sense, then she might be crazy.
She could be crazy.
She might also have a bit more of an insight as to what his staff actually does. I don't want it for myself, just to make that clear. I'm not a thief. People with powerful items create a powerful mess. And I don't trust it in his hands.
Well, if we can find out that the source of that power streaming this salt water from wherever it's coming from is that staff, then that is the best option. We take it from him, and it's not his to threaten anymore. Give it to the people, whatever that means.
I think I could take it. But let's just check first.
Yes, we need to know first. We certainly don't know yet. That may mean speaking with the Locathar directly.
What's your take on this, Coder? And Spear, you've been awfully quiet.
Oh, I was just, wondering about this jackal and the toads, because no one seems to be talking about that. So I'm just coming up with a plan for that bit. So what I'm thinking is nets, lots of nets. We could probably get them off the other toads, like working with them, or they train the toads. If we capture the toads, maybe then they won't hurt us, but then we can take care of the jackals. I don't really know part of the plan where the Locathar are helping out with the giant toads, though. You've not mentioned that bit yet.
You're missing the part with the oil.
I'm confused as well. Are you suggesting that we arm the jackals with the toads so the lie doesn't catch up with us?
No, you already said that the jackals have the toads and they've been training them.
Right, but we're not looking to fight the jackals, so there shouldn't be a worry.
Right, okay. Well, in that case, I mean, if this guy's got a magic stick and you need that, then why not just ask him for it first and just say, excuse me, we don't think you're very nice. Can we have your magic stick, please? We'll go and sort the problem out, but you're not allowed the magic stick anymore.
As a last case resort, it might come to that, yes.
Oh, well, just go up to him now and ask him. I mean, it's better just to be upfront with these things, isn't it? Look, we don't trust you.
Okay,
Sorry.
let's role play. I'm him, and I say no. You can't have my stick.
Please can have your stick.
No, you can't have my stick.
Well, you're not a very nice person, are you? It sounds like you're trying to break all the sea and stuff and whatever you've done with the caves. And
Well, I don't care what you think, you stupid robot.
oh, well, that's hurt my feelings. Wait, is this gone or is this the role play?
We're role playing.
Okay.
I'm just wondering where your plan goes when he says no all the time.
Well, then we'll have to set up some sort of tribunal to decide. So let's go back to the Locathar people and we'll set up a tribunal and then they can decide what they want to do, whether they want you to be in charge with the stick or the queen person, and then let them decide rather than you enforcing your view on them. How's that?
What if we just fight?
You want to fight me?
Yeah, well,
And scene.
I think that's probably exactly how it would go as well. Well, pretty good.
I beg to differ in this occasion. I think that although I do not trust necessarily this person willing to threaten the livelihoods of many of its people in exchange for power, I think the vision they have for the future is not necessarily a bad one. Any ruler of their own people will want to safeguard their security and be able to sit at the table of those who claim power over them. Having said that, I agree that it does not smell very good. It's a fish after all.
I've got no side either way to this point, so I say this as unloaded as possible. But why is it a bad thing that they've been asked to keep an eye on Allenheim? I mean, surely that's entrusting them with a modicum of responsibility and companionship to the point that it's kind of, we're all in Zadar together, so if you're going to live here, you should keep an eye on our enemies as well. I mean, it depends, obviously. He wasn't very specific about the details to that alliance and how forced upon it was, but, they may be terms that Barnacle has already agreed to in discussions that he wasn't privy to, for instance. So we should probably find out about that as well if we're going to speak to her.
It's true. They may be getting something quite great for what they've been offered, but if they're not getting anything in return, then they are in a poor position, and that is no place for a leader to take a grotto of fish, whatever.
Well, she clearly wants more. She wants the whole river. She does not want to be left alone in their own little grotto. I mean, that's the problem. You have unfettered ambition and unfettered compliance.
I mean, not to be the one to point out the obvious here, Coda. I thought you would have noticed this yourself, quite frankly. But obviously, all the other people in Zadar are kind of expanding too. So, what's the difference?
I agree. I mean, part of the reason why I think it might actually be a good thing to go along with this folk is if we do end up having our farm nearby, these people, they'd be great allies to have.
Well, you say that, but they've kind of made it clear that people setting up farms on their land is what they're annoyed at in the first place. So I think you might make an enemy of them quite quickly if you decide to till their soil, as they put it.
I never said we would put in a farm on their land, but I understand your point.
Well, just as you've made quite clear, there's certainly a desire and an ambition for expanse, so who's to say that they don't start taking back some of the land that they feel that they've lost? I've known great nations to say that they're willing to sacrifice land in the name of peace, but when anyone turns their back, they start tiptoeing back across the borderlines.
So option 3 then. We came here for a guide. We gave him your sword. It should have been enough. We're not here to assassinate queens or whatever they're asking us. Maybe we just trade for something smaller. Say, we just want a guide. We'll get you whatever else you like. If you want food, we'll go hunt for you. We'll bring it back. And then you'll send a guide with us. That's it. We don't need their help in a war. We don't want a war.
Put my hat into that box.
And we've already given them, information. It wasn't real, but they think it's real. And so, I mean, as a thank you, they should just allow us to, use the path, show us the path. That's it, done. We give them an item. We've given them information. We'll stay out of politics.
What if that staff has the power to let us breathe underwater?
I forgot we need to do that.
And we could grant it to ourselves. We could return it after we're done with it, of course.
We also don't know for sure that we need to breathe underwater.
I thought that was why we were here.
Well, we came here for a guide because we don't want to navigate those waters with our expertise.
What if we say that what was his undertow? What if we say he has to? We'd appreciate if he was the guide, and then if we need the staff, we could just take it last minute.
I don't think he's that stupid.
How about? Because you've made a very good point, Elizabeth, that, this is a lot of work for what is little reward on our part for what we are trying to accomplish, or what you're trying to accomplish, I should say. I'm enjoying the ride so far. But, what if we just go to speak to this barnacle without mentioning any of this at all? Under the premise that we're still just looking for a guide, and in exchange for gold or whatever it is, and if they then happen to bring up this whole mess and our water's gone bad and our coral's dying, then we go from there, but just put a little bit of a distance between this and us for now.
What if we play two ways?
How do you mean?
Well, we partly agreed to go along with the plans that Undertow might have. But then we have a chat with Barnacle and see if it is his side we'd rather take.
I think that's smart either way. Just, knowledge is power and all that.
It's still troubling to think that we would be leaving them alone, though. This threat of not having the salt water they need. I mean, the same would be happening if we had never come here. But
I mean,
said well.
There's bad stuff happening all over the world that you don't know about, that you're not involved in.
I'd love to say that meant my conscience is clear, but unfortunately not. I will do my best. Keep a logical approach to this. I think, yes, we speak to Queen Barnacle.
Well, I know roughly where they're camped out, so, we can leave this place and head there whenever you want.
Okay. Yes, I suggest that's our next course of action. Then we'll have to
Okay.
keep an eye on any followers.
All right. So what should we tell them? Should we say we're going to try solve it diplomatically? I've never used that word before.
Well, you can use it to them because I think that's what we're going to do.
Aye, I mean, I'm in agreement with that if it's good with everyone else.
Yeah. Okay.
We're just leaving the staff here then.
For the time being, yes.
Is not our possession.
Well, yeah, but that guy sounds like a maniac. Okay.
I don't know what it does.
What if you could do the thing that you could do anyway? Spear.
What are you talking about? What can I do?
You could bring it back. You could bring, your thing, your javelin. You could bring it back to your hand.
Right.
Yeah. What if you could do that with the staff?
Oh, I see what you're saying. No, I don't think so.
Well, why not?
Well, he's not Warforged, is he? So
No, but you could do. I mean, I could.
you
Never
can't,
mind.
can you?
No, I have a boomerang. It comes back to me by itself. Anyway, let's go.
So you leave the hut. As you open the door, the guard turns around. I am to escort you wherever you may want to go. So where now?
That won't be necessarily. I know these parts, and I'm gonna just take us a little bit outside the village, if that's okay. We'll be back
So you are going
soon. For the time being, yes. Is that allowed? We're not prisoners here, are we?
Let me check. You! And kind of like points at another. Stay here. Keep an eye on them while I check. Be right back. And leaves as another bullywug that had a bit of a small net and on his shoulder, and then another bag kind of like hanging off the waist, and just a walking stick kind of like stands in front of you, puts the stick on the ground and just looking at you. I'll just look at you.
Are you a guard here? Are you...
Oh no, I take care of the well, waste disposal.
I say we just leave.
Oh, no, you cannot leave. You need to wait. I am keeping an eye on you.
Does your stick do anything?
I just hit the